The following program is presented to you by the Hope Channel Network.
The founder of modern communism, Karl Marx, suggested that religion is the opium of the people. But today we're going to find out on this program that it's really better to have intelligence with your faith. Stay with us here on Between the Lines. Welcome to Between the Lines here on the Hope Channel. We're glad that you joined us today. We have in our studios the host of The Cliff Show, which is also seen right here on this network, and also the author of a recent book, Life Without Limits, Journey into Intelligent Faith. Heather, what do you think about that? I'm
excited to have him here. He's already making us laugh. He's smart. He's funny. He's just the kind of guy who you want to hear his story. You want to have dinner with him and hear his testimony. So I'm glad he's here to share his story with us
Well,
today.
Cliff, you're on. Tell us about Cliff.
The show?
Well,
or about me?
Yeah, what about you?
I come from a Jewish background, and I was a seeker. I grew up in a very secular, kind of postmodern home, and basically never believed there was truth. And we really weren't, my family, Jewish, but not practicing Jews. And I was just always had this thing. I was a seeker. It just hit me one day, and I told it on my TV show once. It hit me one day in a pizza parlor in Gainesville, Florida, that truth had to exist. And I was on this fervent desire for truth, no matter what. And a couple of years later, after some remarkable experience, I ended up becoming a believer in Jesus, and I've been working for the Lord in some capacity or another ever since.
I mean, that's a big leap. I mean, from pizza to Jesus.
Yeah, I started from a secular Jew to a conservative Protestant. Believe me, you have no idea how big of a leap it was. I still don't know how it all happened, and it still ain't a great fit, but I'm here because basically, I tell people, you're stuck with me. I was seeking truth. This is where I wound up, and I couldn't do anything else without being grossly dishonest with myself.
So what was tough about the fit?
Well, it's just from being, being a secular Jew, and then suddenly in the realm of Christianity, that even after 30 years, I'm still not even comfortable in a church. I'm an ordained minister, and I'm still not comfortable in church. But it's the cultural. I tell people this was the horizontal. Okay, this was the realm of the horizontal, the cultural. I was seeking transcendent truth, okay, and when it hit me that it existed. So this transcendence is more important to me than these cultural things. I mean, I know I had a friend, an Egyptian from a Muslim background, and he's a believer, an Adventist, and he said the same thing. So, but despite all that, I had to transcend all that because I was seeking truth. This is where I wound up, and kaboom.
Well, let's go back to that pizza parlor. How old were you when you thought truth must exist?
Oh, well, I was about 20 years old, and it just hit me in a pizza parlor one day. We don't have time to go into the whole thing, but it suddenly hit me. Objective truth has to exist out there, independent of me, and still for some reason, and that was like earth-shattering for me, because up until then I was you have your truth, and you have your truth, and you have your truth, and it didn't matter. They were all contradictory. There was no Archimedean point to stand above and judge. And then it just suddenly hit me, and it was like I just felt almost this sacred, for lack of a better term. It's like truth had to exist. Man, if I could know it, I wanted to know it no matter what.
You think that's what Pilate was after when he asked Jesus,
what is truth? Yeah, and here's the difference, though. I think if you went to the average person and said, would you like to know truth? Would you like to know what is the purpose of your life? How did we get here? What is the meaning of your life? What happens when you die? I mean, unless they're just a catatonic vegetable, most people are going to say they want it.
Sure.
But see, that's not the issue. For me, the issue is not do you want to know truth? It's how badly do you want to know it? I remember thinking, if it were, even though I knew truth had to exist, I realized it might not be possible for me to know it. Okay, the fact that I knew it had to exist is not synonymous with me ever being able to come to know it. And all I know, though, is I thought to myself, if it were possible for me to know it, I wanted to know it. I didn't care where it led me, what it cost me, what I had to give up, what I had to suffer. if I could know truth, I wanted to know it no matter what.
Now,
Well, how did you start that search? What did you do next?
Oh, well, that,
to
you know,
find
here's
out?
the funny thing, and this is kind of the ironic thing. If you hear my story, there was really nothing intellectual, rational about what happened to me. I got converted, for lack of a better term. I believed, found the truth, found the Lord, totally on experience, supernatural experience, very personal. And it was only after I became a believer that I was able to start building a logical, rational, philosophical foundation for my faith. I don't think logic and reason and all that would have gotten me there. And what blew my mind was, a number of years after I became a believer, I read a quote from like a 11th century church father. And trust me, I'm not into the church fathers. But this one guy, Anselm, he had a little phrase in Latin called credo ut intelligam. I believe in order that I may understand. And that just blew my mind, because here was a guy 11th century, or 10 centuries before I was born, who caught the essence of my experience. I became a believer. And then after I was a believer, I was able to build a solid, rational, logical, intellectual foundation.
So in other words, you had to believe first.
Yeah, exactly.
And then on that
exactly.
foundation, you moved into
exactly,
the structure
exactly.
of what that belief looked like.
Yeah. I'm not saying that happens with everybody, but in my situation, I became a believer first, purely on experience, subjective, weird. I mean, I tell people the story, and that if I had someone came to me and said you were a liar or you're a mental case, I'd say, okay, that's a fairly rational explanation for what happened to me. I don't happen to believe that's true, but I had that experience. And then afterward, I was able to build a logical, reasonable foundation. And much of my writing in the subsequent years of the 20-some books I've written, to some degree or another, was based on fleshing out the logic and reason of my faith, and why it's logical and reasonable and intelligent for me and for others to have faith.
Now we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about how you came to the position of wanting to establish kind of a foundation for people who are in search of truth.
Exactly.
And help them to kind of grasp
Yeah.
why it's actually intelligent.
Sure.
Because so often people think when we talk about religion or following Christ, it's a faith that's blind, it's something that's emotional, it's just more fuzzies than it is something substantive. So
that element is there, but that's not the whole element.
that's
so
not the whole element. We really need to talk about that, because I know there are a lot of people out there searching for that. So, faith is a part of the critical element, but on top of that, we have some building blocks, I guess, some solid stones that help us to really focus on what we're doing.
I've often said I've got logical reasons for believing in things that take me beyond where logic can take me.
And with that, we're going to go to break. Stay with us. You're watching Between the Lines. Our guest today is Clifford Goldstein.
For more information about any of the books presented today on Between the Lines, visit your local Adventist Book Center or go online at www.adventistbookcenter.com. If you are interested in receiving a copy of today's book and live in the United States and Canada, call 1-800-765-6955. That's 1-800-765-6955.